Have you ever found yourself in the confusing labyrinth of human relationships where the actions of those we care about seem to defy logic? It's as if they are speaking a language we were never taught, a dialect of love forged in fear and hesitation. Yet, within this paradox lies one of life's most profound truths. People often reveal their deepest affections, not through grand gestures, but through quiet, subtle, and often misunderstood behaviors. It's a truth we resist, perhaps because it's easier to believe love should be loud and clear, shouting its presence like a parade. But real love, especially from those who guard their hearts, fiercely often whispers. It hides behind actions that seem cold, detached, or even indifferent. The avoidant personality does not love in the same way as someone who is open and unguarded. Their love is not a spectacle, it's a riddle. And your ability to understand this riddle could be the key to unlocking the kind of connection you've been yearning for. Love, in its truest form, is a paradox. It seeks to unite, yet fears being consumed. It craves connection, but trembles at the risk of rejection. For those who guard their hearts with an avoidant disposition, love often appears to be hidden behind formidable walls, built not from malice, but from years of pain, disappointment, and the aching belief that vulnerability equates to danger. Yet behind these barriers lies a profound truth. The act of building walls itself is a testament to the value of what they protect. Consider the imagery of a fortress. A castle does not exist to repel the unworthy, it exists because what lies within is priceless. The very act of fortification speaks to the treasure inside. In the same way, an avoidant person constructs their defenses not because they do not feel, but because they feel so deeply that the thought of being hurt is unbearable. Their love is not absent, it is guarded. And this guardedness is not a rejection of others, but a desperate attempt to survive their own fear. This is where the lesson becomes profoundly personal. It is not enough to recognize the existence of these walls. One must approach them with reverence and patience. The Bible speaks to this dynamic in Proverbs 25-28. A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. For the avoidant, those walls are not only a means of self-preservation, but an essential part of their identity. To tear them down recklessly would be to leave the person exposed, vulnerable, and overwhelmed. Love, therefore, must approach with wisdom, not force. In the gospel, we see Christ himself embody this wisdom. He does not compel the sinner to love him by breaking down their defenses. Instead, he stands at the door and knocks, waiting patiently to be invited in. This is the very nature of love. With an avoidant, it requires a willingness to wait, to knock gently, and to honor the time it takes for trust to grow. For some, this process may feel slow or even frustrating, but remember, time spent waiting for something valuable is never wasted. Real-life examples are all around us, though they often go unnoticed. An avoidant person might express their care not through declarations, but through quiet acts of service or consistent reliability. They might shy away from prolonged eye contact or open expressions of affection, but they will be the first to remember your favorite book or the one to ensure you are safe when you're apart. These small actions, seemingly insignificant, carry a weight of meaning far beyond their surface. They are, in their way, acts of courageous, quiet rebellion against the fear that tells them to stay detached. Recognizing this requires a shift in perspective. We must learn to see love not as a dazzling light, but as a steady flame, one that persists even in the presence of shadows. When you begin to notice these subtle signs of care, you will understand that love is not absent in the avoidant, it is simply waiting to be understood. It is often said that actions speak louder than words, but this truth is magnified 1,000-fold in the realm of love, especially when it comes to those whose hearts are cautious. Love that is genuine rarely announces itself in grand spectacles. Instead, it reveals itself through the quiet, steady rhythm of consistent actions that, though they may seem small, carry the weight of intention and care. In a world intoxicated with the idea of dramatic gestures, we have become blind to the sacredness of the everyday. But think of the seeds a farmer sows. Each is small, almost insignificant to the untrained eye, yet it holds within it the potential for life, growth, and abundance. The avoidant, too, sows love not with sweeping gestures, but with the seeds of consistent care. They may not offer a bouquet of roses or a public declaration, but they will be there when it matters, showing up quietly but surely in the moments when their presence speaks more than words ever could. The Bible offers profound wisdom on this. In Luke 16:10, it says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. The small acts of love from an avoidant are not random, they are deliberate. When they remember your preferences, check in on your well-being, or respect your need for space, these are not trivial things. They are the foundation of something far greater, a love that is tested not by fleeting emotion, but by enduring action." Think about the significance of consistency in the natural world. The sun rises each morning, not with fanfare, but with quiet reliability. It does not dazzle us with fireworks every day, yet its steadfast presence sustains life itself. In the same way, the love of an avoidant is not found in fleeting displays, but in their enduring commitment to show up for you, even when it's hard, even when they're afraid. This is a love that doesn't burn itself out in a single blaze, but offers light and warmth over a lifetime. Yet, we often fail to see this. We expect fireworks, and in doing so, we overlook the steady glow of the candle. But the true challenge is not to demand love on our terms, it is to recognize it on theirs. Love does not always look the way we expect, and our ability to appreciate its subtleties determines whether we can truly connect with those who love differently than we do. This is not merely a lesson about relationships, it is a lesson about life itself. To appreciate the small and consistent is to train your eyes to see beauty in the mundane. To cherish the steady acts of care is to cultivate gratitude, which in turn nurtures love. And to recognize the quiet persistence of an avoidance love is to see a reflection of God's gracie and enduring presence that does not always shout, but never leaves. The challenge then is simple yet profound. Will you allow yourself to see love where it is quietly thriving rather than where it is loudly proclaimed? For it is in these small acts, these steady gestures, that the deepest affections are most truly revealed. Emotional withdrawal, though painful to witness, is often misunderstood. To the untrained heart, it appears as indifference, a lack of care, or even rejection. Yet, beneath the surface, it often speaks to something far more profound: vulnerability. Withdrawal is not the absence of love, it is frequently its byproduct, a signal that the person withdrawing feels something so deeply that they are unsure how to navigate it. Imagine for a moment the trembling hands of a child holding something fragile, something precious. Their first instinct is not to expose it to the world, but to hide it, protect it, keep it safe from harm. This is the essence of emotional withdrawal for someone who feels deeply but fears the cost of their emotions. They retreat not because they do not care, but because their love and vulnerability are too great to bear all at once. The Bible reflects this tension in Psalm 34-18, where it says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Vulnerability is the gateway to both profound love and profound hurt. When the avoidant withdraws, it is often because they are standing at this threshold, overwhelmed by the depth of their emotions and uncertain how to let someone else step inside. Their retreat is not a door slammed shut, but a pause, a moment to gather strength, to ensure they can survive the risk they perceive. Understanding this requires wisdom and grace. It is tempting to interpret emotional withdrawal as rejection and respond with frustration or hurt. But just as a frightened animal retreats to its den for safety, so too does a wounded heart seek solace in its inner world. This is not the time to demand access. It is the time to show patience and respect. Love in its highest form does not coerce. It waits. It stands firm, offering a steady presence without overwhelming the other with expectations they cannot yet meet. We must also reflect on our own role in these moments. Are we truly offering a safe space for the avoidant to emerge from their withdrawal, or are we adding to their fear with our demands? Relationships require a delicate balance, and the most profound connections are built not through force, but through understanding. We must learn to recognize that withdrawal, paradoxically, can be an act of carry-away for someone to protect both themselves and the relationship from the chaos of their unprocessed emotions. Think about the seasons of nature. Winter is not the death of life, but its hibernation, a time when the earth withdraws to prepare for renewal. Emotional withdrawal serves a similar purpose. It is not an ending, it is a pause, a sacred interval where healing and reflection can occur. To love someone in this space is to honor their process, to believe in their capacity to return stronger, more open, and ready to share the parts of themselves they once felt compelled to hide. This is not an easy path, but it is a necessary one. For just as Christ retreated to the wilderness to confront his trials, so too must those who love deeply face their fears in solitude. And just as Christ emerged renewed, those who withdraw in love often return with a heart more ready to give, more capable of trust, and more willing to be seen. Respecting boundaries is not just a relational necessity, it is an act of profound reverence for another's soul. In a world driven by instant gratification and the relentless pursuit of intimacy on our terms, boundaries may feel like obstacles, but they are not barriers to love, they are its foundation. To respect a boundary is to say, I see you, and I honor your need to protect yourself. I will not force my way into your heart, I will earn my place there. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. Consider the story of the Israelites at the base of Mount Sinai, waiting for Moses to receive the commandments. They were instructed not to approach the mountain, not because God was distant or uncaring, but because the act of drawing near required preparation, reverence, and patience. To cross the boundary uninvited would have brought destruction. In the same way, when someone sets emotional boundaries, they are not denying love. They are protecting a sacred space that cannot be entered lightly. We must understand this deeply, for to violate a boundary is to misunderstand the very nature of love. Love does not demand, it invites. Love does not force, it fosters. Respecting boundaries builds trust in a way that no act of persuasion or intrusion ever could. When you honor someone's limits, you demonstrate that your love is not selfish, that you value their autonomy as much as your desire to be close to them. This is the soil in which trust grows, and trust is the cornerstone of all meaningful relationships. Yet our culture often teaches the opposite. We are told that persistence breaks down walls and that love is proven by how far we are willing to push. But this is not love, it is conquest. True love does not seek to conquer, it seeks to coexist. And coexistence requires that we recognize the sovereignty of another person's heart. To respect boundaries is to acknowledge that their emotional space is theirs to govern, not ours to invade. Even in Scripture, we see Christ embodying this principle. When he approached the rich young ruler, he did not demand that the man follow him. Instead, he laid out the truth and let the man choose. Christ respected the ruler's boundaries, even when it meant letting him walk away. This is the model of love. We are called to emulatia, love that offers but does not impose, that respects even when it aches. Practically, this means listening more than speaking. It means noticing when someone pulls back and resisting the urge to chase. It means understanding that patience is not passivity, it is strength. To respect a boundary is not to give it is to give space for trust to grow. This is not weakness. It is the greatest form of courage, for it requires us to set aside our own fears and insecurities and choose faith over control. And here is the paradox. When you respect someone's boundaries, you are not creating distance, you are building a bridge. Each act of respect lays another plank, and over time that bridge becomes strong enough to carry the weight of real connection. Understanding the fears of another is not merely an act of empathy, it is a moral obligation. Fear is a universal language, and though its dialects may differ, its essence is the same: a longing to avoid pain, to protect what is precious, to survive in the face of perceived threats. When someone who is avoidant hesitates, withdraws, or shields themselves from connection, it is not because they lack love. It is because their fear is screaming louder than their heart. To truly love them is to understand this fear, to see it not as an obstacle, but as an invitation to offer safety, patience, and grace. Imagine the trembling of Peter when he stepped out of the boat to walk toward Christ on the water. His fear overtook him, and he began to sink, not because he lacked faith entirely, but because his fear momentarily drowned it out. Christ did not chastise him. He reached out, lifted him, and reminded him of the strength that was already within. In the same way, when an avoidant acts out of fear, they are not rejecting the possibility of love. They are faltering on the water. It is our role not to demand immediate strength, but to extend a steadying hand. This requires more than words. It demands wisdom. Words alone cannot soothe the fears that dwell deep in the soul. Actions are the bridge to trust, and trust is the antidote to fear. When you understand their hesitations, you begin to see that their cautious approach to love is not weakness, but courage restrained by uncertainty. Every small step they take toward connection, though it may seem hesitant to you, is a monumental act of bravery for them. To understand fear is to approach it with compassion rather than judgment. Think about the prophet Elijah hiding in a cave, overwhelmed by the threats of Jezebel. He did not need rebuke, he needed reassurance. And so God came to him not in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire, but in a gentle whisper. The lesson here is profound. The fears of others are not conquered by force, but calmed by kindness. You do not demand someone to abandon their fear. You create a space where their fear can coexist with love until love grows strong enough to take its place. This understanding transforms relationships. Instead of taking their withdrawal personally, you see it as a sign of their inner battle. Instead of pushing them to act before they are ready, you become a safe harbor where they can return when the storm subsides. This is not passivity. It is the highest form of active love that recognizes the sacredness of another's journey and walks beside them rather than dragging them forward. And here lies the paradox. When you honor their fear, you make room for their courage. It is in the presence of safety that fear begins to dissolve and love finds its voice. By understanding their fears, you invite them to trust not because you demand it, but because you have earned it. Trust becomes the soil in which courage takes root, and from that courage grows a love that is not fleeting but enduring, not fragile but resilient. Patience is not simply the act of waiting. It is the art of enduring with grace, of persisting with hope, and of trusting the process of growth even when the results are not immediately visible. It is a discipline of the soul, a testament to faith, and a commitment to love in its truest form. When loving someone who is avoidant, patience becomes not just a virtue, but a necessity. Without it, the fragile connections they offer may crumble under the weight of haste and expectation. Think of the parable of the mustard seed in Matthew 13:31-32. A seed so small that it seems insignificant to the naked eye, yet within it lies the potential for a tree that will one day provide shelter for many. Love for the avoidant is like tending such a seed. You cannot force it to grow. You cannot rush its transformation. Your role is to water it, to nurture it, and to trust that beneath the surface, even when nothing seems to be happening, profound change is taking place. Patience, however, is not passive. It is not sitting idly by, waiting for the other person to change. True patience is active. It is a decision to remain steady in your care, consistent in your presence, and unwavering in your belief in their capacity to love. It is knowing that every small step forward, no matter how imperceptibly, is a victory in itself. And this perspective transforms frustration into hope, for you begin to see progress not in leaps and bounds, but in the gentle unfolding of trust and vulnerability. But patience is difficult because it challenges our pride. It forces us to confront the part of ourselves that wants immediate validation, the part that says, if they cared, they would act now. This is a false narrative born of insecurity. The truth is that real love often takes time to reveal itself, especially in those who fear its weight. To demand love on our timeline is to deny the other person their journey. It is to value our need for reassurance over their need for healing. Consider the way God is patient with humanity, as written in 2 Peter 3-9. The Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. If the creator of the universe can wait for us to turn to him, how much more should we, flawed as we are, extend patience to those we claim to love? Patience requires faith not just in the other person, but in the relationship itself. It is a belief that the effort you pour into the connection will bear fruit in time. It is a trust that the foundation you are building, though invisible now, will one day sustain the weight of something beautiful. And it is a conviction that love, when nurtured with care and perseverance, will grow into a force stronger than fear, hesitation, or doubt. This is the heart of patience, a refusal to give up on someone, not out of obligation, but out of a deep recognition of their worth. It is seeing their potential through the lens of love, even when they cannot see it themselves, and standing firm in the knowledge that the journey, though long, is worth every step.